Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another week of United Way for Southeastern Michigan's What's the Word Wednesday, where we share important resources and have vibrant discussions about topics that matter most to you. My name is Shayla Zimmerman, and today we are honored to share more about Black History Month and honor Black History Month and uplift the unique experiences of Black farmers and gardeners. United Way recognizes that Black history is American history that should be shared all year long. But before Black History Month comes to a close, we wanted to shed light on a specific area of Black history that often gets overlooked, the stories and experiences of Black farmers and gardeners. The stories of the Black community and African Americans in agriculture are ones of generational prosperity and resilience in the face of systemic racism, land loss, and underrepresentation. Today, we'll be joined by 4 community leaders and organizers in agriculture who will share their truth about the history, contributions, and adversities that Black farmers and gardeners experience and how we can build power in our region. Before we dive in, we have a few reminders for our audience today. We will take questions from our audience, so please put your questions in the chat box on Zoom or into the comment section if you're watching on Facebook. Closed captions are enabled in Zoom and Facebook Live. To turn them on, please click on the Show Captions button at the bottom of your screen. I am honored to introduce our panelists for today. So first we have Dr. Finn Bell. Dr. Finn Bell is the Assistant Professor of Human Services at the University of Michigan Dearborn. We have Miss Patricia Wells. Patricia is a Master Gardener in Superior Township. We have Dr. Shakara Tyler, Lecturer of Environmental Justice and Food Systems at the University of Michigan Dearborn. And last but certainly not least, we have Farmer T.C. Collins, the founder of Willow Run Acres. Thank you all so much for being here. Happy Black History Month, everyone. Welcome. I'd like it if each of you could kind of introduce yourself and talk a bit more about your organization, the incredible work that you do, and maybe a little bit about how you came to be into this work. Dr. Bell, would you like to get us started?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. So yes, my name is Finn Bell. I'm Assistant Professor of Human Services at U of M Dearborn. I'm an Ypsi resident, and along with some really amazing community partners, I work to create the Ypsi Farmers and Gardeners Oral History Project, which is a new collection of oral histories from Black, Indigenous, and people of color and/or working class farmers and gardeners. That's available at history.ypsilibrary.org. Could you go to the first actually of my slides? Sorry, because then they'll see the link. Yeah, okay, there you go. So there's the link. Yeah, so all of this came from my previous research that I did as part of my dissertation, where I was interviewing BIPOC and/or working class farmers and gardeners who just had really powerful, important stories to tell. And I really felt like, they shouldn't be filtered through, my lens, which is a white middle class lens, and also not only available in the dissertation, which not that many folks actually read. So could you go to the next slide? Yeah, so there's this quote that I really like about oral histories, which is that, they're not a question of giving voice, but of providing the space for people to express their thoughts and feelings in their own words and on their own terms. And I think that's kind of the really important part of this project is, just sort of enabling space for folks to tell their own stories. And then if you could go to the next one. So this project came after we, as part of engaging folks in Ypsi, so farmers, gardeners, folks who'd been involved with the previous research, and some folks who hadn't, other stakeholders. And, they were the ones who really decided, like, who do we want to interview? What do we want to know about? What questions should we ask? What impacts, do we want to have? And what should we call this project? So out of that, we created this, this oral history archive. So it's currently available at history.ypsilibrary.org. So this is just some more info about the project. You can go there though to see it. So for the initial phase of the project, we focused primarily on interviewing elders. And so we had 6 folks, if you could go to the next slide. Yep, who shared their stories. They're just really amazing, powerful stories. We had a kickoff event at on December 14th at the Ypsi Library. So I would very much encourage all of you to go listen to these. Then the initial phase of the project was funded by the U of M Arts Initiative. If you could, yeah, there you go. We're currently applying for additional funding to continue gathering oral histories from BIPOC and or working class folks in Ypsi. We're also currently working on indexing the interviews so that they're easier for people to kind of see different parts that are relevant that they would like to explore. But they're all just amazing stories. I would really strongly encourage you to check all of them out. And we will, be continuing to gather some more as well. So, yep. So thank you so much for having me. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from other folks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bell. Thank you for being here. And I think up next we have Miss Patricia Wells.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Patricia Wells, and I am a resident of Superior Township today. However, I was born and raised in the beautiful city of Detroit, in the northwest area of Detroit. I like to call myself a child of the wall. You see, in the 40s, the United States government built a brick wall, and it stands there today. It's called the Burwood Wall, and that was to separate the Blacks from the whites. And it's a beautiful community. It was a community, and it's still a historical community, where the Black people in Detroit was allowed to live and live in that environment and community. Many of the people built their own homes. They built shacks to live in because they could not obtain any kind of mortgage or lending from any sources. And so I'm proud to say that that community still is strong today. It's an 8-mile road in the Wyoming area. And many of the descendants are still there. Their parents and grandparents built those homes, and they added on to them. And it's brick community, brick homes. And in one area was for the projects, they called it. It was called Quonset huts. And that's where many people had to live. But my mother and father bought a brand new brick house on North Line Street in Detroit, off of 8-mile road. And the home's still there. And my mother, she hit the numbers, the street numbers. It's considered the lotteries today, but that's how she was able to purchase on a land contract. And I enjoy growing food and helping the community because it's teaching our young people that you come from a long line of hardworking people. Everyone had a garden, and that community is called Garden Homes. All the people ever wanted was to own their own homes and to have a little garden, as they said it, and they had gardens. So I grew up around gardens, collard greens taller than me. And everyone grew up to be very strong and healthy. A lot of great people come out that area. I can go on and name some people. And they've left the area, but they're doing wonderful, wonderful things in other communities, in other areas. Hollywood, New York, all over. So, but gardening helps people because it's essential. We all eat. Doesn't matter what your status is of life. And we must teach our youngins, our children, the babies, like Shakara's little girl. Teach them. Let them see the food grow, because that is the connection with the soil and the land and with our community, with people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patricia. It's an honor to have you here. Next up is Shakara, I believe. Dr. Shakara Tyler.
Yes, thanks everyone. Peace. So glad to be here with you all. Oh, am I unmuted? Okay.
We can hear you. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. So I'm going to be talking about Black food sovereignty and Black land loss and how they're in relationship today. But before I'll share a little about myself. I am a lecturer at the University of Michigan in the School for Environment and Sustainability, the acronym is SEAS. I'm also on the board of the Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network. We recently changed our name from Security to Sovereignty. And I'm also a co-founder of the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. And I have my baby boy here, Tendaji. So he's going to be contributing to the discussion too, if you hear a baby in the background. Next slide, please. So how do we get here, right? Like, how do we get to the vast amount of land inequities today? And what does the Black food sovereignty mean in relation to this? So the historical trajectory has led us to the vastly inequitable landscape we have today, from about 1920 to about 2022, which was the last recorded agricultural census. There has been an overall percentage loss of 96% for Black farm operators compared to 64% for white farm operators. Next slide. And by 1910, Black people had acquired over 15 million acres of land and controlled approximately 218,000 farms. And this is tremendous given the racial hostility, the violence, the basically pushing Black folks off of their land as a way to acquire their land, because basically Black land ownership meant Black power. And so there was an extraordinary amount of activities that pushed Black folks off of their land in the Deep South in the early 20th century. And even in spite of all of that, during that era, Black folks acquired about 15 million acres of farmland, basically by pulling their resources together. And so we owned more farmland in 1910 than we do today as Black folks, right? As a Black community. And so in 1921, Black people owned about 15 million acres of farmland. 14% of us were farmers. And so this is more than we have today, right? We owned more land, and more of us farmed the land than and back in 1920 than we do today. And by 2022, Black people own just over 4 million acres of farmland. Approximately 1% of us identify as farmers, right? And so that's a huge decrease, right? Like, and how did that happen? Why is that so? Next slide, please. So history has got us here. Like the extraordinary amount of Black land that has been stolen over the centuries, or lost, as some people would say, is how we got here. It just didn't fall out the sky. So a quick history lesson. Let's take a brief walk through history. I'll make this very, very seamless, hopefully. Back in 1862, Congress passed the Homestead Act, which accelerated Western migration by providing white settlers with 160 acres of stolen land. And this was land that was taken from indigenous peoples. And the act led to the distribution of 80 million acres of public land by 1920. And then in 1865, some of you may be familiar with 40 acres and a mule, which was the Special Field Order 15 that General William Sherman was basically ordered to provide farmland to newly freed African peoples that were enslaved. And so he set aside huge swaths of abandoned lands along the Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida coast for Black families. And then later that year, he reversed the order and returned all of that land to the Confederate planter oligarchy. And only about 40,000 acres was actually given to Black growers or Black people in the South to farm. And then in the same year, Congress established the Freedmen's Bureau, which provided for the redistribution of abandoned and confiscated lands to freedmen. in the amount of up to 40 acres. And unlike white settlers whom were giving free land in the West, thanks to the 1862 Homestead Act, Black people needed to purchase their land after centuries of forced enslavement on the land. And so Black people needed to purchase this land while white settlers received some of the most massive welfare subsidies of any people in the world during the 19th century and on. And then in 1866, the Southern Homestead Act opened up 46 million acres of public land in the states of Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And then all in all, through various Homestead Acts, 50 million acres of indigenous land was granted to white settlers between 1862 and 1934. So it is no mistake that we have a massive and equitable landscape in regards to land ownership today. Next slide. So this is where the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund enters. So we are an organization that works to rebuild Black intergenerational wealth through Black land ownership and stewardship. Next slide. So if anyone is familiar with Detroit, Detroit is extremely low income. And so this red area here towards the lower right-hand corner of the screen is Detroit, which depicts less than $30,000 a year in income, compared to other parts of Southeast Michigan, where you see the income range escalating to about 30,000 to 45,000, 45,000 to 80,000, and so on. So Detroit is a population, or Detroit has a very concentrated population of people that make less than $30,000 a year. Next slide. Detroit is also highly segregated and majority Black. So the green here is Black, basically Black people, Black residents. The white here, or the blue here, are white residents. And so the green represents the concentration of Detroiters that are Black, mostly Black folks. And then the blue are the mostly white folks that live on the outskirts of Detroit, of the suburbs. And so the red here is the concentration of Arab peoples in Detroit. And then the orange here is Southwest Detroit, which is majority Latinx folks. Next slide, please. And comparing Detroit to other three major cities, Detroit is massive, is very, very large. And so you can fit the sizes of San Francisco, Boston, and Manhattan in the parameters of Detroit. Next slide. Detroit has, while it's very large, it also has an extraordinary amount of vacant land, about 40 square miles of vacant land, or I'm sorry, about 139 square miles of Detroit's land is vacant. And so what are we going to do as this majority Black city that's largely low income, very highly racially segregated, and has a large amount of vacant land? We're going to help Black growers in the city that have been farming their land for decades to own their land so that they have more security and power in building their businesses and organizations. Next slide. So to date, we have helped Black growers build power, which is basically the core of Black food sovereignty as a movement. We have supported about 171 growers to purchase their land and build infrastructure on their land. About 67 of them are landowners right now. And that means we have facilitated close to 18 acres of land purchased by Black farmers and growers in the city. And many of these farmers have completed infrastructure projects, from building tool sheds, installing water spigots, building rainwater catchment systems. Like, all of these infrastructure development projects are really important because purchasing land is only the first step to building power. You have to actually make your farm operational. And so the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund basically exists as this intermediary to ensure that Black farmers can purchase their land from the Detroit Land Bank Authority, which in essence doesn't want us to purchase land, right? The local government, although they say that they support equity and justice and reparations even, They make it really hard for everyday Detroiters to purchase land from the Land Bank Authority. They put a lot of barriers in your way, and they send you in all kinds of directions that are not in the direction that you need to be going. And so we work as the technical assistance provider and hold folks' hand so that they could actually afford the land and get the deed in their hand so that they have more land security. And I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tyler. And I know we have our discussion questions too, that you'll have a lot more time to talk about that last part. So thank you for being here and bringing our youngest panelists we've ever had on this town hall. It's an honor to have you here, Dr. Tyler. And I do want to kick it over to Farmer T.C. Collins to introduce himself.
Good morning. My name is Farmer TC. I reside in Pittsfield Township, but for myself, I'm the oldest Black registered farmer in Washtenaw County. In Washtenaw County, there are only 2 Black farmers out of 4,600 farmers in Washtenaw County. There are only 3 Asian farmers in Washtenaw County. So there are some statistics that's out there that is outdated, but just to bring it to the forefront, being the oldest registered Black farmer in Washtenaw County, in the past 54 years, I've seen the landscape change dramatically, specifically in the community that I was born and raised in, Willow Run. Willow Run itself was a vibrant community that helped put a lot of communities on the map with the Liberator bomber plant, the Willow Run bomber plant. But beyond that, our organization is named after our community, Willow Run. We are working on several different projects out in our community to bring down or tear down the invisible barriers that exist to separate communities. So for an example that we are doing is that in Apple Ridge, we are building Black equity, so residents can have access to farm plots, and that way they can rent garden plots. They can also learn about the only one that's in the nation that we have created, the Underground Railroad Garden, that talks about African American history from the 1600s going forward. We have that in 2 different locations, and that is very important because we may celebrate or you may not celebrate African American History Month, but when you think about food, majority of the food, the agriculture that was based upon building America the way it is now was built upon Black slave labor. So explaining about the Underground Railroad Garden through the course and the class, which is a hands-on experience, is vitally important. Also at Apple Ridge, we have fruit trees where we're trying to provide the education component of how to nurture fruit trees. We have put in at least 27 fruit trees from peach, pear, apple, nectarine, and also 2 pecan trees. We have to replace the pecan trees because they didn't take in the soil. So we're going to develop that area for the 2 pecan trees, which is very important. Now at the Clay Hill operation, Clay Hill, is in the community of Willow Run, where we're building a farmer's market, a U-pick farm, an orchard, a vineyard, more education for hands-on experience. Part 2 of the extended of the Underground Railroad Garden. This is located, if you ever get a chance to look at the Washtenaw County Opportunity Index, you will see that in this area, it is highly populated with low-income residents, but at the same time, there are other neighborhoods within that area that are middle-class and upper-class residents. For the Clay Hill project, it's named after the community Clay Hill because it has a lot of rich history. We also have a mushroom farm school. I'm the only African-American in Washtenaw County that teaches and show how to grow mushrooms. Then we have our indoor-outdoor classroom at Chapel Business Center. Many years ago, I was hit by a drunk driver and I was in a coma for 6 months. So I was a professional chef, but I had to retire that position and devoted my time full-time to be a full-time gardener and farmer. So being a registered Black farmer over 50 years, these are some of the struggles that I have gone through, built up, and tried to share with the community. So for us, we are trying to bring in and show how to cultivate the land by learning how to save seeds, heritage seeds, heirloom seeds, which is most valuable and very important because there are too many different GMO seeds out there in the community, and they're not true authentic seeds from a seed strain. Also, promoting disabled farmers. Disabled farmers are very important. They are people just like everyone else. There is no mentioned or people advocating for people with disabilities to farm. So for myself being a invisible disability person, I'm trying to lead that so that way it can help others be a part of this. We are partnered with, with the Rotary Club, and we are putting in robotic gardening to help assist with people that are wheelchair bound and also are blind. So that way they have the opportunity to grow in the garden space that itself. Also, we have a potato program. I grow over 80 different varieties of potatoes. I am the only African-American that grows 80 varieties of potatoes to give that out to the community. That was inspired by my youngest daughter, Kiki, when she was in preschool. And also the seed program, saving seeds, sharing seeds, and giving seeds out to the community. That helps to establish other residents and other people in the community to saving seeds, because sometimes people take out seeds from watermelons or cantaloupes, or even if it's just from zucchini, and they toss it out. Those are viable seeds that you can save, preserve, dry, and grow another crop the following season. By being disabled, I have a reading problem, and I promote reading and literacy, and reading is very important. So teaching people how to read and public engagement is very important for us, and promoting that. So we have a reading program within our organization of Rural Run Acres. And also, I'm a recipient of Detroit Land Bank. I qualified to get land in Detroit. Here in Washtenaw County, just an acre of land costs well over $10,000 to $15,000 an acre. And it can cost even more than that. So for our organization, we have to piece land together in 7 different spots. I'm also the original creator of the Washtenaw County Black Farmers Fund. It's a very good program that I had created at the very beginning, but at the same time, things has changed throughout the years. But still, if you ever get a chance, please support a lot of different organizations and groups in Washtenaw County. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farmer TC. It's an honor to have you here. Thank you all for sharing a little bit more about your work and the great work that you do. I do want to spend the rest of our time in discussion. And so I'd like us to start with this question. And TC, you talked a little bit, well, Dr. Tyler, you really talked about the history for Black History Month. But TC, I'm curious what your thoughts are on, as we honor this month, what moments in history as pertains to Black farming and gardening and agriculture stand out to you?
I would say a moment of time is the late 80s going into the 90s. There was a big shift and change demographically. In Washtenaw County, the big 3, specifically in the Ypsilanti area, they offered buyouts. They offered the opportunity for residents that had those positions in the big 3 automatic making factories to go south. And that took away a lot of people in our community, and they went south for those jobs, which is understandable, but it left a big empty hole in our community. And a lot of people did not know how to survive, did not know how to fend for themselves. There were people that did, but for me, in the Black community, when you lose a majority of 1/3 of your community that garden and farm, now you only see probably about 3 to 5 gardens throughout all neighborhoods. And it's almost like a dinosaur. So for us, we're trying to change that narrative. And when you have a case of bottled water and those bottled waters are empty, instead of throwing those out, you can create miniature terrariums. You can create mini garden space on your window ledge with carpet string, and just string it through and just put a little soil in there and just show someone how to recycle and repurpose and reuse. these are just small samples and tips of just showing how to get back to the basics. And just a handful of dirt in your hand is taking ownership of going back to the soil, smelling the soil, tasting the soil. Yes, I have tasted soil in different areas to see what it needs. No, I'm not a licensed laboratory, but going old school from my great-great-grandparents when they were slaves, I learned that from them. Learned how to taste the amendments in soil, learning how to taste if it needed more sand, red clay, green clay. Those are more important properties. So for me, the turning point was the community when it lost its people in our community, and trying to bring everyone back shoulder to shoulder and show each other how to grow these seeds again.
Thank you so much, TC. Would anyone else like to respond to that first question of what moments in history stand out to you in regards to this topic? Miss Patricia, I see you're coming off mute. Do you want to share?
Yeah, what stands out to me is that today, many young people do not want to have anything to do with farming and gardening. And I tell them, we come from a long line of hard workers. We were brought over here, enslaved people, to do the farming and the hard work and the work. So be proud of this. You are valuable. You are valued. We have to change the narrative, because agriculture is culture. And when you can grow your own food, it empowers you. You don't have to hold your head down and beg anybody. Because, as I said, I remember the older people used to say, all they ever wanted was a home and a garden. And that area is called garden homes. They own the gardens and they own their own homes. They build on it. So as a people, so what speaks out to me today is that we have a lack of connection with the soil, with the land. I am a retired from the state of Michigan, from the circuit court. And back in the day, it was called Recorder's Court, Frank Murphy. That's one of the top courts in the state and in the country. So therefore, many people commit crimes. And a lot of times it's a lack of connection, anger, frustration, hunger. Food is mood. So we tell young people, we show them how to put a penny in the ground and pull out $1. Get used to the environment, the land, because that sustains us. That's everything. If you have 1 acre of land, you plant 100 walnut trees. The nuts are valuable, and also the timber. That's hardwood. We're looking outside of something. It's right here. We have everything we need, and that can empower all of us. And so I say what stands out is I know that my ancestors are looking at us and saying, back to the land, back to the land. The land is where you come from. And the land is where you go back to. So we want to turn those weapons into plowshares. And we see that. That's what the Bible quote is, one of them. And so when you know how to eat and take care of yourself and your community, think about it. Because in some places, we know there's starvation, there's hunger. Even in the prison systems today, food is punishment. When they want to punish you, they punish you with the food. The kind of food they give the prisoners, it's what you wouldn't give a dog. It's just enough to keep you alive. And it's very sad. So we can relate everything back to the land and back to the food. And that will empower us and our community. Because food is critical to all of us. Clean, good food. And agriculture, knowing how to grow, will bring you out of poverty. You won't be hungry. and you can share, and we can have strong minds and strong bodies and be proud. Stand tall. Stand tall. Because the last thing you want to see is a man or woman in that orange suit with their hands shackled and their bellies shackled and their feet shackled. No, not today. No way. Because that's how we were brought here. And today, to see that condition today in the prison systems, no. Treating people worse than a dog, put them in cage. That is archaic and barbaric. And you wonder why we have the problems we have. When they say third grades, they know who's going to go to prison, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Because I know we come from kings and we come from queens. We were killed if we learned how to read and write. So I say, you know how to read, you know how to write. And you better know how to plant a seed. It is essential. Doesn't matter of your educational status, each one, teach one. And we must go on and do this right here, right now, all of us. It's not something that we can put on the side because people are hungry today and they are homeless. Many people are unhoused. So we can plant a seed and get started right here and right now.
Thank you, Ms. Patricia. Well said. And I think you are really speaking to my next question for you all is how do you center your work around the Black community and Black culture?
By encouraging young people to start with yourself, because there's opportunities. We can start teaching our young people from the birth, from the time they come out, understanding the land and the soil and what you were meant to do, to go and possess the earth and inhabit it, and we all belong. So they know to come into the gardens, and I'm always have a lesson for them, and they tell me they learn more in my garden in 15 minutes than they do in the school in a year, and that's sad. And so just helping young people get started, and people, period, and many of them have started. I know Shakara from back in the day. Shakara, remember me? Greening of Detroit, Keep Growing Detroit, Michigan Food Conference. So yes, it's been a journey, but we have to do it. Yes. I don't want to see anyone in those orange suits. Yeah, they can do better. We can do better.
Thank you so much. Did anyone else want to share just how they go about centering the Black community and Black culture in your work?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shakara, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be brief, TC. I want to ride this wave that Miss Patricia has started. Culture, like really illuminating our culture as an asset and not a liability is really important. And so as Ms. Patricia has shared, our Black people's connection to land has been severed very violently, very negatively. And so many of us don't understand that working the land is a source of power, is a source of remembering where we came from, is a source of co-creating our identities here in the present and the future. And so I always lift up the historical parts of our land-based identity that has often been invisibilized. So for example, we're known to build up the cotton industry in the South, like enslaved peoples farmed cotton for centuries and so on and so on. And not a lot of people are familiar with the brilliance that African peoples brought here to what we call Turtle Island, what people call the United States of America. But in the decolonizing fashion, it's Turtle Island, right? And so we were stolen from our villages in Africa because of the agricultural brilliance that we had, right? Farming rice, farming, of course, cotton and root crops, cassava, so on and so on. But mainly, we built up the agricultural empire of the US was founded upon the African brilliance of rice cultivation by African people, specifically African women. And that is such a tremendous, empowering thing to know for me, because I know that my lineage, my connection to the land is one of culture and not of coercion, is of prosperity and resilience, as has already been said. And the more we remember that our agricultural brilliance is an asset and not a liability, I think the further we'll go in building the solidarity economies, the economic democracy, and just the overall healing that Black communities need, so that we can see that we basically, from one perspective, we basically taught the world agriculture. And agriculture is the foundation of life. And so as one of the original farmers of the planet, we have to see ourselves as the trailblazers of the agricultural empire that operates on a global scale today, which is reflected in the Black agrarian culture of Detroit, which is reflected in the Black agrarian culture of Washtenaw County, where many folks I'm sure here are attending from. And it's just reflected in the Black agrarian culture on a national level that is intersectional with, as Ms. Patricia says, making sure that our babies have a sense of belonging and have a sense of security on the land, right? Like all of these things go hand in hand, all of these things are connected. And so I just want to uplift that historical notion of the cultivation of rice that has built the industry, but nowhere else in the world did that brilliance lie other than within African women that planted rice seeds in the hairs of people that were boarding the transatlantic slave ships and brought them here with us today, so that we would have pieces of our culture in this new land, in this new space that we were involuntarily forced to come to. So yeah, we have to know our history so that we know where we're going.
Thank you so much for that, Truth. TC, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I want to thank everyone for being here. And what's most important is that breaking the cycle of addiction. And the addiction is that we are addicted going to grocery stores and already buying already grown, packaged, washed, pesticide produce. And all it takes is just one time, grow something. Breaking that cycle of addiction is very important. Teaching someone else how to cultivate the land. Think about how many times that if you ate a lemon for lemonade or for some type of dish, you're throwing out those lemon seeds. Grow a lemon tree. Think about every time that you throw those watermelon seeds out. You're throwing away future generation of growing watermelon. To speaking about what Shakara has said about growing rice. We're growing rice right here in Washtenaw County. They're teaching the community how to grow upland rice. That is a wonderful staple to grow for both the indigenous Indians and also African-American community. From learning from the Gullah community itself. That is one of our classes that we teach about African-American history in the communities itself. And just to give you an example, this is yellow lentils. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little blurry, but this is 5 pounds of lentils. And every year we give out lentil starts for different people in the community. We have a very big, diverse community, specifically in the Hamtramck area. 3-4 years ago, there was a large population of refugees that came in from Afghanistan. They didn't have a person to speak in English. They were just dropped off here in Hamtramck. So with our group, Willow Run Acres, we went out and we bought seeds for their culture. And no, I don't know how to speak any language of Afghanistan, but food is the language. So teaching and sharing and giving, and it started a good dialogue just by giving food and sharing food. That is a start, and it's a start for everyone. Even if you want to or not, that is something that you should do. And later on this month, we are giving out elderberry starts. We're giving out pawpaw trees. We're giving out pecan trees, redbud. We're giving out these trees, which is most important because being a arborist, teaching how to grow a tree and taking the benefits from a tree is very important. It's very important because in the state of Michigan or in the Great Lakes region, since I became disabled, I saw that the opportunity to teach other people was very important. So from November 1st to April 1st, gardening and farming hibernates. And there's no classes many years ago that was being taught. So I took it upon myself to get out of depression, get out of that heavy weight that the doctor would say, you're disabled. That's the last thing that a Black man needs, is being told that you're not or you can't perform anymore. So I had to break that cycle of I cannot perform and became able again. And that's the most important thing. And if I can help another person that's disabled to being able, that takes those crutches away. So teaching people how to grow in the wintertime, teaching them about breaking that cycle of winter blues. Winter blues is a very, very big problem in the Great Lakes region. And opening up the window, put some seeds in a cup, add a little soil, even if it's an avocado seed, mango seed, let's grow. So we have over 163 different classes that we teach, from recycling to composting to seed propagation to water propagation to seed bombs. And we changed the name from seed bombs because that's a sensitive word. So we call it seed biscuits, how to recycle seeds, recycle mail, and make paper mulch, put seeds in that, squeeze out the water, and plant seeds that way. So we doing that every day.
That's great work. Thank you so much, TC. And we are at time, and so I want to just get one short response from each of you as we round this out. What are some ways that we can work together in collaboration to support and strengthen Black agriculture? If we could just do a quick round, that would be great.
For us, is that we're not getting any funding. We are, I'm funding this a lot on my own off of my disability check, and I'm feeding and providing seed starts for many people in the community. So if starting with networking with other groups to share resources is very important, because the next person could be you that's hungry, and you could be the next person that can receive a plant. So donating to willowrunacres.com. We are a nonprofit organization. It'll help out a lot.
Absolutely. So resourcing. Thank you, TC.
Yeah, I was also going to focus on resourcing. I mean, even as simple as, just supporting Black farmers at, at farmers markets, with CSAs. But then also, obviously Dr. Tyler was talking about the amazing work in Detroit, which I think is, a shining example. In Washtenaw County, I know there was the link to the Washtenaw County Black Farmers Fund, but, also supporting that. And then, I think also all of this goes back to the foundational injustices of the creation of the United States, settler colonialism and enslavement. And I think we have to be talking about reparations. And I'm glad that, other people have brought that up, but, locally there are movements towards that. So we have to be seriously talking about that. And certainly funders, I think really need to be seriously talking about that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Bell.
I would say also, I agree with everyone, and Willow Run Acres is doing wonderful work in the Ypsilanti area, encouraging and teaching, working with all people. And so it's very, very important that we must, all of us, look into the mirror and you can see, because this is the United States. And we have to call it like it is. This is critical. We are living in critical times. And we're all citizens. We're all human beings. that need to be treated like human beings. And food is essential. Food is critical, and food is mood, and it's nutritional psychology.
Mhm.
I want happy people around me. I don't want them to be sick or hungry. If I can do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patricia. Dr. Tyler, did you want to round us out, wrap us up?
It's already been said, reparations, supporting Black farmers economically. Yeah, see, Tindaji agrees.
Yes.
Supporting Black farmers economically, socially, culturally, politically, spiritually, even. Yeah, it's all been said.
Well, thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing your truths about the legacy and adversities that Black farmers and gardeners experience. So thank you so much. You're getting a lot of love in the chat as well. So hopefully you can take a second to look at all of those. But before we close, I do have a few more updates for our audience. So as a reminder for anyone who may be experiencing a need, our 211 helpline remains available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This includes resources like food, utility assistance, and much more. We always maintain a running list of available services in the community and can connect you to the support that you need. You can also look up resources in our area or in your area by using 211 resource database at unitedwaysem.org/211. And if you are a podcast fan, I'd encourage you to check out our Washtenaw United weekly radio segment on WEMU. This partnership features the leaders and organizations who are creating opportunity and promoting equity in Washtenaw County. Listen to Dr. Finn Bell and Master Gardener Patricia Wells discuss the Ypsi Farmers and Gardeners Oral History Project. To listen in, please visit wemu.org/Washtenaw United. And lastly, stay tuned for our next What's the Word Wednesday Town Hall coming soon. This will include a Women's History Month Town Hall and a Reading Month Town Hall in March. So please stay tuned for those. To stay updated on our upcoming topics and watch replays of previous town halls, please visit unitedwaysem.org/virtual town halls. The recording from this town hall will also be on that website for everyone as well. Thank you so much, everyone. We will see you soon. Stay safe and continue to live united.